Alright, so today we are going to talk about graphing functions based on their zeros. I know it says graphing maximum minimums, but that was a typo. So when we factored our basic, we factored our square terms, we'd only get usually two sets of parentheses. And we'd want to find when that was equal to 0. So what we would do is we'd set each set of parentheses equal to 0 and then solve for x. So the difference between today and what we've done in the past is we have 1 to 2 more sets of parentheses. So first steps first is I pull everything apart and set equal to 0. And then I'm going to solve all those. So in this first one, x would be -1, x is 1, and x is equal to -2. So these are what's called zeros of my function. So that means if I graphed the function, which is what we're going to do, if I make my nice little graph, we're going to be able to tell what the graph roughly looks like. We're going to sketch it out. So we're going to have a 0 at -2. We're going to have a 0 at -1. We're going to have a 0 at 1. So this graph will have something to that effect. We just need to figure out where the graph is coming from. So that being said, is my graph, oops, I did it, sorry. Are we going to go this way? Or is my graph going to go this way? So what we need to do is we need to grab out our calculators, and we're going to check a point. So I like to check a point 1 to the left or 1 to the right of my numbers. Now what I say by that is, left would be I'd pick something smaller than -2. So say I'd plug in -3. If I plug in -3, I'm going to plug it into my original function. So we're going to go ahead and grab our calculators because we can do all of that on our calculator. So every time I see x, I'm going to plug in -3. Now I get this value of -8. So what that's saying is when I'm looking for my graph at -3, my y value will be in the negatives. So because we're going to be in the negatives, if I go one more, we're going to be my graph is going to be coming from the negative side. So I'm going to go, that being said, -8's down here in the y's. We found the y value when x was -3. So logically, we're going and increasing our graph from left to right. Now say you plugged in a value bigger to the right, which would be 2, you would have 2 plus 1 times 2 minus 1 times 2 plus 2. Which would give you 12. And if you think of that, logically 12 is on the larger side, so when I would be at 2, I'd be out here someplace at 12. So that means I'm going to start up, and I'm going to go backwards. So either way, you want to look at your graph, whether one less than your smallest or one more than your largest is up to you. You just need to make sure you double check your numbers. So if you need to plug it in a couple times, make sure you get the same number, because that means you're approaching the same value. This next one, I don't necessarily have a parenthesis, but I have this x. Same idea, I can just pull apart that x and set it equal to 0. If I set the second set into equal 0, that's going to give me x is -2. And that third one would give me x is 1. Because all I would do is the opposite, so minus the 2 and add the 1. So those are my my 3 zeros. So I have a 0 at -2. I have a 0 at 0. And there's a 0 at 1. So this time I'm going to pick 2 to plug in. So I'm going to look to the right side. So I'm going to have 2 times 2 plus 2 times 2 minus 1. That should give you 8. So that means that, again, this is a positive value on this side of my graph. So we're going to come in positive. And likewise, if you picked, say, -3, you have -3 times -3 plus 2 times -3 minus 1, which would give you -12, which would go with what your graph is telling you is that you're going to be in the negative side. Alright, this third example, I now have 4 different zeros. So I'm going to have a 0 at x is -3. I'm going to have a 0 at x is -1. I'm going to have a 0 at 1. I'm going to have a 0 at 2. So -3, -1, 1, and 2. So in this case, I either need to plug in -4 or I need to plug in 3. I'm going to let you plug this one in and see what you can come up with and see if you can match what I have on my computer. So your graph should kind of look like a W. I think this is the last one. Yes, this is the last one. Okay, so in this last one, we're going to have x is 0 again. We're going to have x is 4. X is -2. And x is -6. So I'm going to have a dot at -6, dot at -2, dot at 0, and a dot at 4. So I will let you again pick whatever value you'd like to plug in to double check to see where you're going to create your graph. So again, this last one we should have a W shape again because we have 4. So if we have 4 sets or 4 different numbers, we're going to end up with W's, or if you went the opposite way, it'd be an M. If you have 3, we're going to end up with these curvy lines. And it's going to kind of switch at the middle point, which is kind of what it attempted. Ooh, I'm sorry. Trying to scroll down, which is what it kind of did here in this first one. All right, that's all I got for you.